Digitalization is not just a change, it is the motor of change itself. One single moment can be decisive when we share it with others. One idea can revolutionize whole markets overnight. One life turns into a multitude of lives we can live simultaneously. Professional and private structures have to be rethought. How can we keep up with a world that is steadily increasing its pace? Where are we going to find our answers for a future that is already here?
And now, please welcome on stage Dr. Jens Thiemer, Vice President Marketing, Mercedes-Benz Cars.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, everybody. Good morning, I hope you're well. So, on behalf of Mercedes-Benz, and of course on behalf of the South by Southwest, I would like to welcome you all here to world premiere in the Festhalle in Frankfurt, the very first Me convention. I'm absolutely pleased to have you all here, and of course that we can share this unique upcoming weekend together. Those of you who have been here to this great venue during the IAA know that this stage normally is focusing on one thing in particular, and that's cars. That said, there's one thing I can promise you for today. For the next 3 days, cars will only play a minor role. Rather, together with you, I would like to talk holistically with you about our joint future. By rethinking the IAA as we knew it, I believe we add value to the existing trade fair format and make it even better. With the Me Convention, the very first Me Convention, we don't want anymore any spectators. We want makers and doers, like you. We also don't want to make a corporate event show. Our role as Mercedes is nothing else than the enabler of a discourse for the future. That is why the only representative of our company is Dieter Zetsche. He will have an active role during the convention, our chairman of the board, and nobody else from Daimler. He will join an expert talk a little bit later today with Sheryl Sandberg, Facebook's Chief Operating Officer, this afternoon. To put it in a nutshell, our aim is to give you room to generate new ideas and to exchange knowledge with thought leaders and people who share the same mindset. People who want to make a difference, who want to actively shape our world. So let's talk about how we want to work, how we want to communicate, how we want to move, dwell, love, and live in the future. During the upcoming days, I would like to encourage you all to take an active role in shaping the future of tomorrow. Use the Me Convention as your personal platform. We have more than 150 speakers on site who I hope will inspire you and recharge you with their unique stories and visions of the future in several formats. We have keynotes, we have panels, we have talks, and we have workshops. And please do not forget to exchange, to reflect, to celebrate together in the evening at our urban hotspot formats. Of course, the first Me Convention would not have been possible without the support of others, which is why we teamed up with the best conference and the best thinkers on this planet. This is why I'm absolutely proud to name the world-famous and well-loved South by Southwest Festival from Austin and Texas as our exclusive partner for the first Me Convention. What has been going on in Austin for more than 30 years, in the meantime, every year in March, is completely amazing. And it is a huge inspiration for us. A big thank you to you guys at the South by Southwest, and especially to Roland Swenson, one of the inventors and founders. Great partnership and trust came not only from the South by Southwest, but also from the city of Frankfurt, whose contributions to the Me Convention has been outstanding. Please have a look.
My name is Markus Frank. I'm the Deputy Mayor of Frankfurt.
My name is James Ardinast, and together with my brother, we are responsible for the night and evening program during the Me convention.
Frankfurt is an international city with a lot of young people.
And you walk through the streets and you feel the energy, especially here at the Bahnhofsviertel. It has a flair that you don't get in any other quarter of the city.
I want to welcome everybody to the Me convention here in Frankfurt.
So thank you again to the city of Frankfurt. And now I only have to say one more thing. I hope you will have a great and inspiring time here at the very first Me convention. Let's create something new together. And please now welcome on stage together with me our host of today, all the way from Austin in Texas, the chief programmer of the South by Southwest, Hugh Forrest, and from Sunnyvale in California, Rashik Sarif from Daimler's Lab 1886 in Silicon Valley. Guys, the stage is yours. Thank you very much. Have a great time.
Nice. Pretty awesome here. Nice crowd.
Yeah, it's pretty loaded.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Wow, this is a great, great crowd. It is such a huge honor for South by Southwest to be involved in this event with Mercedes-Benz. Thanks so much to Jens for the nice intro and for the great collaboration. Also, a special thanks to Mercedes-Benz for your support to our great state of Texas in the wake of Hurricane Harvey. We really, really appreciate that donation.
It's a true honor to be here from Silicon Valley and have such a great collaboration with both Mercedes-Benz and South by Southwest, working to really shake up IAA and bring an inspiring program for the next few days that focuses on our future from different perspectives.
You know, we've been doing South by Southwest for over 30 years now, but this is a first for us as well. The Me Convention is the first event that we've ever done outside the United States. I remember back to the initial conversations we had with Mercedes-Benz about 10 months ago, and this opportunity to collaborate with them just felt right. To give you a little taste of what you will experience over the next few days, the Me Convention unites inspiring speakers and an interactive audience, which should result in a weekend of discovery, enlightenment, and fun engagement. So I'm really excited about the next few days because I think this event will bring that special South by Southwest feeling all the way from Austin to you guys in Frankfurt. Personally, some of the sessions that I'm most excited to see include today's keynote with Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook and Dr. Dieter Deutsch. I'm also pretty excited that my friend William Hurley from Austin is here to talk about quantum computing. And of course, I'm super stoked about who we have coming on stage in a few minutes. So Rashik, for you, the Me Convention already started on Wednesday with the Lufthansa Flying Lab from San Francisco to Frankfurt. Give us a little more context and perspective on what that was all about.
In a nutshell, it was a wild ride. We got a head start by having multiple Me Convention speakers presenting live over 30,000 feet in the air with Lufthansa. And we surprisingly had over 160 passengers staying up late and watching the speakers present. It was quite inspiring, but enough for me. We have a little video to kind of show you what it was all about.
Seems like a really good lineup of very interesting speakers. People are really passionate about what they do, like I am.
Ladies and gentlemen, very warm welcome from the flight deck. My name is Frank Benny, your captain for this flight to Frankfurt. Welcome on board on behalf of the crew on this Airbus A380 of Lufthansa and on board our new flying lab.
I love the thought of having a captive audience that whatever I say, they can't get away.
Where else would you be 38,000 feet up in the air, having an opportunity to talk to some very amazing people and share your perspectives?
Thought leaders can come together, and what was normally just travel is an enriching experience.
I'm a total nerd, and I will talk to anyone about science and technology as long as they will listen.
The next generation is joining the workplace with a very different set of expectations, desires, and hopes, which is why we need to reshape the corporate culture.
We all want amazing things for ourselves, and we have to ask ourselves really hard, pushy, difficult, uncomfortable questions to come up with the creative solutions to get them.
It's all about bringing individuals together and creating a unique space for inspiration and excitement. This event takes you to a whole other level.
Cool video. I wish I'd been on that flight. Note to self and note to other attendees coming from the US. Next time, make sure to book your flight in advance and be part of that unique content experience. Thanks again to Lufthansa for making that flight happen.
Now, before we get started, I want to ask how many of you have downloaded the MeConvention app? Wow. All right. That's great.
Nice.
You get all the schedule information, register for workshops. You guys are all set, but most particularly important is that you get to ask questions live, especially for this upcoming session.
All right, let's do this. To kick off the MeConvention, I'm proud to introduce a man whose inspiring work has shaped the future in ways that no one could have imagined. I'm talking about Buzz Aldrin, one of the first two men who have ever set foot on the moon.
Buzz has inspired us all from his initial exploration of the moon in 1969 to his advocacy of continued space exploration and permanent settlement on Mars. His keynote is one that will take you out of this world.
In conversation with Buzz Aldrin is Sarah Cruddas, who is a space journalist, a broadcaster, and author of Did You Know Space? Sarah has a background in astrophysics and is a passionate advocate for commercial space travel and the future of space exploration.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's take you to the moon.
We choose to go to the moon because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept and one we intend to win.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
magnificent ride. I'd like to trace through a little bit for you. In fact, on this flight, we've carried along pieces of bread. Along with the bread, we have a ham spread.
Retro. Go. Fido. Go. Guide. Go. Patrol. Go. Telcom. Go. GNC. Go. Ecom. Go. Surgeon. Go. Capcom, we're go for landing.
Eagle Houston, you're go for landing. Over. Roger, understand. Go for landing. 3,000 feet. 1201. Roger, 1201 alarm. 1201 alarm. Same time, we're go, flight. We're go. Green time, we're go. 40 feet down, 2.5. Picking up some dust. 30 feet, 2.5 down. Big shadow. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Now I want to back up and partially close the hatch. Making sure not to lock it on my way out. That's our home for the next couple hours. We want to take good care of it. Beautiful view. Magnificent desolation.
Because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world. For one priceless moment in the whole history of man, all the people on this earth are truly one.
Tranquility Base, Houston. You're cleared for takeoff. Roger, understand. We're number one on the runway. We've come to the conclusion that this has been far more than 3 men on a voyage to the moon. More still than the efforts of a government and industry team. More even than the efforts of one nation. We feel that this stands as a symbol of the insatiable curiosity of all mankind to explore the unknown.
All right.
I think we need a louder round of applause.
We take them on now?
Yep. I have Buzz Aldrin's jacket, but I think you want it back.
Oh, that's right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have not only an American hero here with us this morning, but a global icon who not only took the first steps for human beings on another world, but is now working towards making humanity a multi-planetary species. The exploration of space is the most significant thing we will ever do as a species, and I really want you to give another really loud round of applause this time for Buzz Aldrin. You can sit down now.
So happy to be here with all of you. It's been a good while. I spent a good 3 years, a number of years ago here in Germany. It's nice to be back.
So we're going to spend most of this conversation clapping for you, Buzz, I believe. So we're going to get on to the most important thing in a moment, and of course that is the exploration of Mars and also occupying Mars. But we need to go back in time now, first of all. And believe it or not, Buzz Aldrin, you were once a child. So we can see this picture soon here behind us. And you were a 6-year-old boy, and you were inspired by aviation by your father. So can you tell us a bit more about what drove you and what inspired you as a young child?
I grew up in a great aviation pioneer family. I had my first airplane ride at 2 years old. My father His physics professor was Robert Goddard. His first assignment to the Philippines was as an aide to General Billy Mitchell. That's where he met my mother, Marion Moon. They were married and came back, and my father...
So your mother's maiden name was Moon?
Yes, it was. And right up here at this summer camp in New Jersey, my hometown, my grandmother, Mama Moon, would take care of me and my cousin, Bobby Moon, while we explored the rock, moon, and the bridge that takes it to the other rock, Mars. I didn't know that then.
So Buzz, you grew up in a time before space exploration, and you've joined the US Air Force. You fought 66 missions flying in Korea. And you also went to MIT and you have a doctorate in orbital mechanics. It's not luck that you became the first man on the moon. Can you tell us more about the things you did to enable you to become who you are? What was the value in your education?
I was a small young football player in high school, and I turned down a scholarship to MIT to go to the military academy at West Point. And from there, I went through pilot training and into Korean War. The end of World War I, the Japanese occupation of the Korean Peninsula, the surrender was taken by the Chinese in the north and the Americans in the south, divided by the 38th parallel. Not a very good, it was a great division, and those two Koreas need to come back together again.
So you, in the astronaut office, got the nickname Dr. Rendezvous. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that nickname came about?
Well, the astronaut group was made up not of poets, not of philosophers. President Eisenhower said, we want success. We're going to have test pilots.
And you weren't a test pilot?
No, I wasn't. I was very discouraged, and I thought, well, that's too bad, but I'll do my best anyway. So, of course, the early pilots to fly in Mercury and Gemini and Apollo were all going to be test pilots. But my very good friend from West Point, Ed White, a year behind me, we were both on the track team. We would go down and compete in New York City against other college teams. And he was a year behind me, but we got to know each other, and we both went into the Air Force. And the next thing I knew, I ran into him here in Germany at the wing headquarters in Bitburg, Germany. And Ed said, you've got to get into this one squadron. It's got beautiful spirit to it, just wonderful spirit. And so I did. and he and I were both flight commanders. He went back to get his master's degree and went through the test pilot school. And when I finished, I was at MIT. And in 1962, Ed called me up on the phone and he said, NASA would like to have some more astronauts. He said, I'm going to apply.
Did you think if he could do it, you could probably do it as well?
No, he was qualified. He'd been through. And I said, well, okay, I'm doing very important things like rendezvous at MIT. And I can shoot better gunnery than you can, so I'm going to apply too. Well, they picked him, but they didn't pick me. But the next year, we call it lobbying. I was lobbying NASA, how important it was to know how to do rendezvous.
And your education and your...
They selected me, and without a doubt, it is the background of education of my parents and that I've had the opportunity that has opened up all the opportunities that I've had.
And so your education and your background played a large role. And once you arrived at NASA, your first mission was with Gemini. And one of the great things you did with this, other than take the first selfie in space, was the scuba training. You were the first astronaut to train underwater for a spacewalk.
Well, you know, being an egghead from MIT and their Navy test pilot, night carrier landings, there's a lot of competition. And I was called Dr. Rendezvous, not always a complimentary term. All right? But the way the schedules came out, I wasn't even going to fly in the Gemini program. But it was only a tragedy, an accident that killed my backdoor neighbor that opened up an opportunity for me to fly with Jim Lovell on the last flight. And yes, the big experiment on this flight, in addition to rendezvous, was a maneuvering unit.
So like a jetpack?
A jetpack, and this is something I really wanted to do. I understood. We had had a lot of trouble with spacewalking people, getting overheated, exerted, and just had to cancel. But a suggestion was made that why don't you train underwater neutral buoyancy? And some astronauts said, oh, up here is space, vacuum, gravity, and you're talking about underwater? Ah, that's no good. But I knew I'd been a diver for 9 years.
Do you think that's why your
so
space...
I became the first person to train for spacewalking underwater, and it was a great success. But even so, the maneuvering unit was canceled, and much to my regret, because I would have been able to have done what George Clooney did in the movie Gravity. Do you see him going around with a backpack?
You got to walk on the moon, though, Buzz. So you also took the first selfie in space, as we can see here. Can you tell us how that happened?
Oh, it must be in that. To take a selfie in space, it really has to be attached to a spacecraft. You can't just hold something. So it has to be attached to a spacecraft, just like that. And so you can describe this as the most expensive selfie stick ever invented. So if you want to take a selfie of me, just make sure you have a very expensive selfie stick.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to do that. We're going to move on to Apollo 11 now, because of course we're coming up to the 50th anniversary. How significant is that to you, not only in terms of what you did, but the future and getting to Mars?
All three of us on the crew really wanted to be available for the 50th anniversary. And we thought we would be, but unfortunately, Neil Armstrong passed away and won't be with us. But I think all of us feel that we were so fortunate to have been at that position that all of the contributors that brought together the space program through Mercury, Gemini, Apollo Skylab, Apollo Soyuz with the Russians, and beyond, all of that has to have a unifying of all of our crews.
Now, Buzz, the picture behind us is one of the most iconic photos, and I hear a rumor that your son thinks you're not good at taking pictures, yet you took probably the most significant picture of the 20th century. Can you talk us through what happened?
The lunar dust is just not like anything here. When you put your foot down, it's remarkable. And I have to take a picture before and after. So this is after. And it's one of the more iconic pictures, just by accident. I'm not a very good photographer. My son thinks, oh, how come, Dad, you're in front of the camera all the time? But my son Andy takes pictures. He's really very good.
Does it feel strange to know that that's your footstep and it's on the moon?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's got my name on it.
So another iconic photo is the visor shot. Can you tell us how that photo came about? Because Neil Armstrong took this.
Now, this is the picture that looks like it's posed. Absolutely not. I was walking and Neil said, stop. And I stopped and turned at him and he took the picture. You can tell by the footsteps. In the visor of my helmet, you can see the reflection of the Eagle spacecraft, the American flag. You can see the shadow, my shadow, going out toward the photographer, and in the white, that's Neil Armstrong taking the picture. Sometimes they gather people together and they ask him to describe what is it that makes a particular picture so important.
And what is it about this one?
I have 3 words. Location, location, location.
Okay, so after Apollo, I mean, how do you ever, this is you on a parade after Apollo. What motivates you? Is it the fact that you were able to serve your country to the highest level?
Well, we went around the world and met with kings and queens and crowds of people, but there were signs that we would see in the parade that said, "We did it." The people in the crowds felt that they did it, not just the 3 of us. Such a show of great unity. It was really wonderful to be a part of that.
And isn't it the case that often people will come up to you and tell you exactly where they were on July 20th, 1969? Exactly where they were when they saw you walk on the moon?
Right.
So people often tell you where they were when they saw you walk on the moon.
Oh, yes. Where were you?
I wasn't born, Buzz.
You weren't born.
I was waiting for you.
I remember where I was when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. Sunday evening, I was listening to the radio. And for a teenager to grow up and experience the conflicts of World War II and to observe what later became known in our country as the greatest generation was really very inspiring to me, to see so many things happen in such a short time. It was just a tremendous background education for everything that has come since then.
Are you disappointed that we haven't continued at the same rate as Apollo? So we haven't gone back to the moon, we haven't yet been to Mars?
There were steps after World War II, the V-2 rockets, the Sputnik, and that was followed by Apollo. These are steps where decisions have been made by our country, by other countries, and there are other major decisions that have been made, and I've been analyzing very carefully to see of the wondrous opportunities that the world was able to put together with a very vibrant space program of cooperation that now seems to have faded apart. And I think that can be brought back together again. It was not just one magic moment for President Kennedy after the Bay of Pigs and Sputnik, and he actually wanted to go to Mars, but that was way too far. But within the decade was his objective to reach the moon within a decade. And I think that the world, the United States, is in a very similar position today And I think that I can be of great help in putting together the necessities to have that resurgence back into a great space program again, and that less than 2 years from now, at the 50th anniversary, my good friend Stephen Hawking agrees.
He's got your shirt on as well.
That we can make, the world, the United States, can make a commitment that 5 decades ago, Eagle 1 landed on the moon. In 2 more decades, Eagle 2, 3, and 4 can land on Mars. And then we can set our sights on Alpha Centauri Eagle, the little planet B, Proxima Centauri Eagle.
So, Buzz, why is it so important to not just travel to Mars, but to also occupy Mars?
Most of the planning that has been done for 30, 40 years about going to Mars, at first, stay 30 days and come back. But it was expensive going and coming back. But if you go at the more optimum and you stay a year and a half and you come back and you go again, that's a visit to Mars. And you visit, come back, visit, come back. Most of the planning today is all like that. I say we should visit and occupy, bringing people back just to keep people happy until we convince them in another 5 years, by 2025, that we will land and stay permanently. That means we need to prepare Mars. And to prepare Mars, we need teamwork. We need partners at the moon that can do the essential things of landing, assembling habitats, similar to what we would put on Mars. And we will refuel the first landers, perhaps with water from the Earth and the sun, refuel in orbit and land until we have a reactor, nuclear reactor on the surface of the moon. When we do, water from the Earth, Space Launch System, SLS, water lands. Now we have Earth. Water is Earth fuel, and we refuel on the moon.
So you're looking at the moon as
until we
being a precious
discover the ice crystals, difficult to process. Then that reactor on the moon can then convert that to lunar fuel. That lunar fuel can then go back up to orbit around the moon, just enough to then come down to Earth orbit. That's where the refueling should all take place, in Earth orbit, not out by the moon. That's the way everybody is planning. That's wrong.
Buzz, But can you talk us through, we're going to come on to audience questions soon, so if you have them, you can use Slido to submit your questions. Talk us through this picture then. So this was taken at Stonehenge. What was the motive behind this?
Well, I think I received a message, and it said, don't throw things away, reuse them. Reuse the spacecraft between the Earth and the Moon. It's called a cycling spacecraft.
Can you talk us through the technical
for tourism, for adventure travel. And we have pathways, a cycling pathway in Earth orbit, a pathway to the Moon and back, a cycling polar orbit of the Moon, just like the orbit equatorial of Mars. What we examine, we assemble things at the Moon, and we practice so that the cycler that goes between the Earth and Mars, and then Mars and the Earth, and then Earth and Mars, and we need two, so that every 2 years about, we have one going and one coming back. Reusable, the spacecraft that take the crews to the cycler, that then go and take the crews to the reusable landers at Mars, just like the landers at the Moon are reusable, the landers at Mars are reusable.
So that's incredibly complicated.
That's what Stephen Hawking and the message from above. Don't throw things away. Use them over and over again.
Okay, so we've only got 10 minutes. That's incredibly complicated, Buzz, but I'm sure there's a lot of children who'll be inspired by what you're doing and should understand it. But I think one thing which is important to mention is that your cycling pathways to Mars are actually in virtual reality as well. It's available on Hive and on Vive and HTC. I mean, what was it like creating a virtual reality experience to try and help explain very complicated visions to get to Mars?
Is that a question?
Yes.
When you can see things as if you're right there, it is remarkable, incredible to see someone walking around as if they're on the Moon or on Mars, pointing out where the Curiosity rover is. These virtual reality can really help to convince people, even congressmen, that we know what we're doing. And you should listen to us, not to those people.
Okay, so we're going to take some audience questions, and the first one comes in from someone who's anonymous, but it says, how can we, as regular people, help all of us to get to Mars? So how can regular people help us get to Mars?
Well, you have to get online and get the answers up there. I'll try.
They need to buy a shirt as well, don't they?
A little bit of history. After World War II, President Eisenhower warned the nation in his farewell address about the military-industrial complex. I had someone do a little research because I'm interested in what happened to our space program since Apollo to where it is now and how we can rejuvenate it again. And the research was that the original Eisenhower speech was the military-industrial congressional complex. But the politicians took out the word congressional. And as I have been looking, I know many people may not agree and they may not like my conclusion, but the aerospace companies, mergers, acquisitions, monopolies, and lobbyists, fewer of them who understand the Congress seniority systems of the appropriations, the oversights, the senators, congressmen needing re-election. It is this complex that has paralyzed our space program. And it needs to be bypassed. And the only way is not the Supreme Court, not the executive branch and the Congress. It's the people. The people must understand what our future is for the young people coming along to inherit this great future that we are working so hard to give them. They must see that the spirit of expanding outward, of exploring, or we will expire.
Explore or expire. Another audience question for you, Buzz. This one's from Ben, and it said, should the US invest more money in NASA or in private organizations?
We have 2 hurricanes and many other expenditures. We have people coming in from war-torn areas looking for new homes. All of this costs much money. We cannot continue to develop a space capability without fiscal, budgetary discipline and responsible allocation, reallocation. In the US, we need to phase down so that we can rise up. 3 things: the International Space Station, the Orion spacecraft. It's over 10 years late. It's way expensive. It's too small. And the big rocket is way too expensive. Can't fly very often. We can't cut them off politically. That would not work. You can't do that. You have to replace each one with something that is an improvement. And that takes a wisdom of improvement instead of continuing to go downward. We must go upward. We need to change. We need to phase down things so that we can rise up again.
Buzz, we've only got just over 1 minute left on the clock, so if you can give us a short answer, I know it's hard. Can you just finally explain why it matters so much to go to Mars and why it will benefit so many people, not just to go there, but to occupy? And you've got 1 minute to answer.
Each time we send some people to Mars, well, before I do that, a robot at Mars "12 years ago, we sent 2 rovers to Mars. Spirit on one side, Opportunity on the other. They were supposed to last about a year. Spirit got stuck after 5 years. Opportunity is still working. The program manager of those said in writing what they have done in those 5 years of moving around, discovering, conducting experiments. What they have done in 5 years could have been done with human intelligence in orbit around Mars in 1 week. Imagine that contrast. At the same time, I realize that we can refuel a routine activity of a lander and a fuel tank. It's the same over and over and over again. We can do it here on Earth in a classroom with TV cameras on the mock-ups and big screens. And we look at the routine operation, put it into segments, and we practice over and over again.
Well, Buzz, we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately.
Yep.
No, Buzz.
We can do this in orbit at the moon with 1 second between segments, 4 segments. From the Earth, we can refuel on the surface of the moon. And on Mars, we can refuel 20 minutes between each segment. It is very doable if we think about what we're doing. That's what we must do.
There we go. Thank you. So that was a long minute, by the way. Can everyone give a huge round of applause for an American hero, Dr. Buzz Aldrin? We get to go now.
Time is up already?
You got any final words? No. Come on.
We have questions?
Right.
No, we've had questions.
Let's give Buzz and Sarah another big round of applause.
Yeah, that was amazing.
This was definitely a great session, quite inspirational, I must say.
Nice. Okay, a few additional organizational items. As Rashik mentioned before the session, I want to encourage everyone to download the Me Convention app if you haven't already. The app will enable you to create your own personal schedule, plus register for the workshops and the concerts. At each stage, you will also receive your personal pair of headphones. These headphones will allow you to hear all the talks, so they are very, very important to your experience. And remember to return your headphones as you leave the given stage.
And I understand everyone's getting up and are just excited to get to the next venue, but just some quick logistics on where to go. It is a little bit misleading in here, but just to get a little lay of the land. Right here where you're at right now, it's the urban stage. Behind you, a floor above, is the inside stage. You just take the escalator up. There's some stairs to get back down there. On the first level is where you have all the workshops, makerspace, the lounge, and the bar. The bar, okay? And then if you want to get to the Forum 1 and 2, especially for today's keynote with Dr. Zetcha and Sheryl Sandberg, at the bar, there is a way to get out to the Forum stage. If you have any questions, there's plenty of representatives around to show you how to get around. So with that, I think there's nothing much more to say other than let's create the new. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right.
Listen to the bass.